I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land where we are placed, or where I am placed today, the Wurundjeri people of the Woiwurrung language group. We pay our sincere respects to the elders of the past who held their culture, elders of the present who strengthen their culture, and to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people that we engage with. And welcome to any Torres Strait Islander and Aboriginal people who are in the room today. We are going to welcome all the way from sunny Perth, Naomi Moylan to speak at our meeting today. Naomi Moylan has been working as the Young Onset Dementia Program Coordinator at Brightwater Care Group in Perth. 2 years ago, Brightwater undertook a project to look at the needs of people living with young onset dementia and review evidence and current services. This included extensive consultation with people with lived experience of young onset dementia and other dementia stakeholders. From this, a young onset dementia service model and model of care was developed to inform 2 new services, YOD multidisciplinary allied health team and a supported independent or SIL living home. Naomi is an occupational therapist who specialised in supporting and enabling people living with dementia. Thanks very much for joining us, Naomi.
Thank you. I'll just share my screen first of all. Okay, so everyone can see that now?
Yes, thank you.
Great. Right. Oh, thanks so much, Sarah. I'm so excited. I've missed the last few of the Dementia Knowledge Network meetings, so it's really lovely to be here. I also would like to acknowledge the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation where I am today, and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and also acknowledge any people with a living experience of dementia, as you are our greatest teachers in the support and work that we do. So Sarah's given you a little bit of background to what I've been working on in the past couple of years, make sure I can run through these slides. So I will circulate the slides, or let Sarah circulate the slides afterwards, so don't feel like you need to write any notes if you want to, but happy to share them and the resources that I'll talk about at the end afterwards. So Brightwater are based in Western Australia, and they're a leading not-for-profit provider of aged care, disability and retirement services here in Western Australia, and have been in the Western Australian community for over 100 years, so well embedded over here. So I'm sure I probably should have asked at the beginning if anyone is currently working with people living with younger onset dementia or have a living experience of younger onset dementia. If you want to add to anything as I'm talking, or we could have a discussion at the end, but really acknowledge your experiences and be very grateful for anything you would like to add to the present or what I'll be talking about. So I think you would all know that younger onset dementia is any form of dementia in people under the age of 65. And Alzheimer's disease is the most common form of dementia for people with younger and older onset dementia. However, we do see more of the rarer forms and frontotemporal and alcohol-related dementias in people under 65. So it's estimated in Western Australia that there are 3,000 people with a diagnosis of younger onset dementia and approximately 29,000 people nationally. However, given that we know that it can take up to 5 years for a diagnosis, potentially those numbers could be a lot higher. So in the work that Brightwater have been doing with people with neurological conditions, they saw that there was a gap in services for people living with younger onset dementia, and undertook a project in 2023, and that's when I came on board, which was a great privilege to work on this project. It had a lot of consultation with people with living experience and with providers around Australia, as well as reviewing the evidence and reviewing the current services here in Western Australia. From that work, we developed a service model and model of care and a multidisciplinary allied health team and supported independent living home for people living with younger onset dementia. And these are all accessible through the NDIS. So part of our consultation, we were listening to what people with living experience were telling us. So again, it's probably nothing new for all of you who work in these areas, but they were telling us that there's no clear pathway following a diagnosis, and that diagnosis can take up to 5 years, often being misdiagnosed with a mental health condition, stress, anxiety, menopause, a whole myriad of different other conditions, and taking a long time to get to that diagnosis. Then at that point of diagnosis, they were given little or no information about the condition or what they could do to help themselves or services that could help them. They were giving up key occupations like work and driving, and they were at a very different life stage to people that were diagnosed at an older age. They still had mortgages and dependent children, and were a lot, I'm not saying that older people who are diagnosed with dementia aren't fit, but maybe a lot more active, and there was no particular dementia specific services and support that fitted their needs. They found friends would fall away and have that social isolation, and there was no suitable respite or permanent care options. And sadly, we just heard about people sort of bumbling along after a diagnosis and reaching a crisis stage, and often leading to a social admission to hospital as a last resort, and that was not a good outcome for them. So these are just some quotes. I won't read them, but just time and again, these were the sorts of things that we heard. And I think, that idea that if you had a diagnosis of another illness, that you would be given a plan and support, just wasn't being experienced for people living with younger onset dementia. We also recognised that there were gaps, that the NDIS didn't understand progressive neurological conditions, that people living with younger onset dementia could no longer access residential aged care, and that the disability services that they could access did not have a good understanding of how to support and enable people living with younger onset dementia. The evidence that we looked at as well really high, and from talking to families and people, that it wasn't a disease that just impacted the person, it really impacted the family, and often that there were children or teenagers as part of that family as well, so quite unique. So what were they telling us that they wanted? They were wanting to be involved in developing their own care plans that had a real reablement or rehabilitation focus. They wanted to access multidisciplinary services. They wanted respite and permanent care options that understood the needs and were tailored for people with younger onset dementia, and services that understand their needs. They were looking for social activities and peer support programs where they could meet with other people living with younger onset dementia. And they wanted that continuity of care from point of diagnosis to end of life, and that integrated care. So, there are some great services out there supporting people with younger onset dementia, but everyone was working in silos, and that service integration was needed to really support the people that needed the service. So these are some of the key themes of what I've probably already talked about, but that real need for tailored services, continuity of services, as I've just said, integrated services, and the reablement and rehabilitation approach. So taking all of that on board, we attempted to develop a service model that incorporated a multidisciplinary reablement approach. It has is relationship-centered care, enabling environments, incorporating community participation, and that integrated external services, using a household model, and making sure that our staff were chosen specifically for their values and given the appropriate training to really thrive and to work well in these areas. The model of care that sits within the service model was developed again in conjunction with people with a living experience of younger onset dementia, and aligns with a lot of the wellbeing models that we see for all people, but for people living with dementia as well. So the intent of the model of care is for the person we are supporting to be able to feel or say that they're supported to make choices to maximise their independence and well-being, and in doing so, have a sense of understanding, autonomy, purpose, trust, connectedness, and continuity. And I've listed there some of the sort of points that we try and really think about to help us enable those things. And I won't read them all out now, but I will share the PowerPoint so you can have a look at those as well. So jumping through to the second half of, or phase 2 of the project, so actually developing the services that are now up and running. So the allied health team commenced in about August, September last year, and our first SIL home opened in November last year. So to start with the Younger Onset Dementia Allied Health team, it's a multidisciplinary team with occupational therapists, speech pathology, physiotherapy, positive behaviour support, and support coordination. All these clinicians already work for Brightwater, were very experienced neuro clinicians from the case or the people that they were working with already, but did undertake some additional training relating to dementia and younger onset dementia. So they all took the Understanding Dementia MOOC, which I'm sure you're all very familiar with. They did the Many Faces of Dementia training through the University College London Rare Forms of Dementia unit. And they also did, some of them, did the Introduction to Dementia Rehabilitation through Monash University, which was a pilot modules that I think will be freely available to everyone later this year. So I'm happy to share some information about that when I know that that's coming out. So the focus for the allied health team was a real reablement or rehabilitation focus, and for this purpose we are using those terms interchangeably, but we do focus on the World Health Organization definition of rehabilitation as a set of interventions designed to optimise functioning and reduce disability in individuals with health conditions in interactions with their environment. And we use the clinical practice guidelines, which are currently being updated, the World Health Organization Dementia Rehabilitation modules, and the Dementia Rehabilitation book that you might all be aware of from Australia, edited by Lee Fay Low and Kate Laver. The additional training undertaken by the occupational therapists included the care of people living with dementia in their environment. So the COPE program, which you may be familiar with, it really focuses on working with the care partners of people living with dementia to help them support their the person living with dementia to remain living in the home, and to also support the carer well-being. The Great Cognitive Rehabilitation Program from University of Exeter, we're using a cognitive disability model to look at functional cognition assessments and really supporting the strengths of people living with dementia. They've done some sensory modulation training and dementia enabling environments training. The speech therapist undertook some specialist mentoring with actually a speech therapist from Melbourne, Kathy Taylor-Rubin, who you may all know, and really focused on primary progressive aphasia, which we see a lot in younger onset dementia, and care partner communication interventions. So jumping onto this younger onset dementia supported independent living home, as I mentioned before, it opened in November 2024. It's a home for 5 people, so a supported independent living home funded through NDIS packages or funding. And our second home next door will open probably in July this year. So it uses a household model. We have focused on very much a dementia enabling environment. It has multiple living areas just chatting with Sarah before that the large outdoor spaces and garden are a real key feature of the home, and really one of the key reasons that we chose this site, and in consultation with people with living experience, just really being able to access the outdoors independently and enjoy the outdoor environment. It was a transitional care home for about 9 people, and we've converted it to a home for 5 people. So had maximum bedrooms before, minimal living areas, and we've sort of reversed that now. We did engage with the Dementia Training Australia Environments Consultancy Service, which if you've used before, I'm sure that you would highly recommend as well, to help us with the dementia enabling refurbishment. I mean, some of the things that we've done are putting sliding automatic glass doors in the home, which I guess we wouldn't have in our own homes, but that really enables that line of sight and independent access to the outdoors. It's really increased the light in the home. All the colours chosen in the home had a good contrast. We couldn't refurbish the whole bathrooms, but we've looked at things like toilet seats and highlighting things that we want people to see, removing mirrors. We've designed our own signage to keep that sort of home-like signage in there. You can see the toilet sign in the picture. It's probably a bit small, but yeah, really trying to keep a really home-like environment. The open shelving in the kitchen so people can independently come in and see things that they would use quite regularly, come and make themselves tea or coffee or engage in cooking. Even down to the plates, like, you know, the contrast of the plates, the licked plates, but they're very, you know, just like plates that we would have at home, and really thinking down to that sort of detail. We had intensive staff training, and as I said before, our coordinator is an occupational therapist, and she, you know, has worked in the dementia space for a long time and really handpicked those staff for their values, and then we supported them with a lot of training to implement the model of care that we have. As well as developing those services, this project has really been about connecting with the younger onset dementia community and services in Western Australia to help create a network and a pathway for people following a diagnosis of younger onset dementia. And we are sort of piloting a pathway and network here in WA as part of a joint solutions project, which I'll speak to in a minute, and really trying to work collaboratively. So as part of that, we have developed some younger onset dementia resources on the next page, and I can share that with you. But also highlighting that before my time at Brightwater, our research centre did a big project on creating resources for children of people living with younger onset dementia. And this is a short novel that is aimed at sort of early teens about a parent living with younger onset dementia, but there's also a lot of other resources on how to talk with children of people living with younger onset dementia, and that's all available on our website, and there's a QR code at the end to help you get to that, or I can send some links. I mentioned the Young Dementia Network that we're forming here in WA, and we're working really closely with, especially with Dementia Australia, because they are offering some really great programs and support for people with younger onset dementia, and I'm sure hopefully wherever you are that similar programs are offered, but just often not really well known. So the family counselling program is something that we have had great feedback from people living with younger onset dementia and children. The peer support program they offer, we have a younger onset dementia memory lane cafe run here, and also I haven't got it there, but the post-diagnostic service that they run for 6 weeks, and that really helps people access the NDIS as well. So often not that information isn't given at point of diagnosis. So I did mention very little blurry picture there, but all the resources that we know that are available here in Western Australia, we've collated into about a 3-page document that can be accessed. I've got the link there when you get the slides, or it is available on our website as well. And I did want to highlight some just some resources that in my journey I've found really helpful. So that University College London Rare Dementia Support training, and having worked with people with younger onset dementia and say like quite rare conditions like posterior cortical atrophy and other rare forms of dementia, that is a great place for resources and for learning and for families as well. So just wanted to highlight that if you didn't know about it. And as I mentioned in my acknowledgement, that learning from people with lived experience, they're our greatest teachers. And some of the podcasts that I've had some aha moments, the Hold the Moment podcast, I think it's with Jim, who with younger onset dementia at the moment, I'm finding really interesting. But an older one, Talking Dementia with Heckle and Jekyll, two women who've been mental health clinicians, both diagnosed with younger onset dementia, and just really insightful about their diagnosis and coming to terms with that and, living their life. So just something that I've found useful, and I enjoy podcasts as well. So if you do, that's some helpful tips. So I want to also highlight, I'm not sure if you're all aware, I know Sarah, you are, about the Young Onset Dementia Joint Solutions Project. I know you had the forum in Melbourne, so you may have all attended that, but that is a consortium headed by the Young People in Nursing Homes Alliance and the Young Onset Dementia Special Interest Group and Dementia Australia and the Eastern Cognitive Disorders Clinic. I think they're the four. And these are the findings of a lot of the amazing work that they've done, and that they will be reporting to government. It's a government-funded project to understand the needs of people with younger onset dementia and the gaps, and I think reporting to government later this year. They've had an extension, so really remain hopeful that we do see better outcomes and better plans and understanding and opportunities to deliver services for people with younger onset dementia following the delivery of the findings from that project. And just to let you know, and you might already know as well, about the Younger Onset Dementia Special Interest Group. So it's a group of a network open to anyone. The people that on the executive, and I'm lucky to be a part of that. I'm the only, I think, or one of the only non-researchers on the group, but some great, people, including Samantha Loy, from who you probably all know, as advocates and researchers and people working in the area of supporting people with younger onset dementia and the webinars. So what I wanted to highlight, that they've got some great webinars and resources there. They're some of the more recent ones that they've had. If you haven't seen them, they might be worth going back and having a look at those topics. So that's the QR code to our website, where the children's resources and the younger onset dementia resources, which are WA specific, but if you wanted to cut and paste and use any of those resources to make your own for wherever you are, please feel very welcome to do that. So thank you for your time. Hopefully I haven't got too far over time, but I'm really excited to chat and hear about what's happening in your areas and what you're doing in the younger onset dementia space, or answer any questions.
Thank you, Naomi. That was, gosh, what a lot of information.
Sorry.
What an amazing body of work you've done in the last 2 years. That's so can I just ask, Brightwater are obviously a large group and they just had a belief that this work needed to be done. How did they fund it in the beginning? Or
yeah, so they funded the refurbishment and the training for the house, and we did look at some grants, but just with all the timing and the requirements for grants. So yes, they invested in this. They're very well known for their work with people with Huntington's disease, and they work with people with brain injury and have a brain injury rehabilitation home for younger people here in Western Australia, which I think is quite unique, one of 2 or 3 in Australia. And I think, you know, the idea came from actually in the SIL houses, having people living with younger onset dementia, and it just wasn't really working in those houses, you know, the mix with person maybe with younger onset dementia and a brain injury, and then when the changes came in, when people couldn't access residential care, it was just like, what is going to happen to these people? So
Yeah.
I think they've always had that heart, and seen what they've done with those, you know, people with Huntington's and brain injury, younger people, and yeah, really saw the need, and I guess went ahead and did it.
That's fantastic. Did anyone have any questions for Naomi? Please, we've got 20 minutes or so if people wanted to ask or share their story. Rachel.
Yeah, hi. Similar vein to your question, Sarah, around the funding. With the multidisciplinary team rehab, is that funded through do you have to have NDIS to access that, or how is that program funded?
Yeah, so that is through the capacity building budget. But I mean, there could be an option. We've just recently had at the hospitals asking if we can do fee for service functional capacity assessments to help people, you know, when they're applying for the NDIS, to maybe get a plan that is fit for purpose, as opposed to just applying for the NDIS without, you know, that assessments and input from allied health. But yeah, it is an NDIS funded service.
Thank you.
Amy.
Naomi, thank you very much, for your sharing. It was very, very informative. I want to know, what are the average age of the younger, onset of dementia, around, what age?
Yeah, predominantly we're getting people in their 50s that are accessing the service, you know, and I think take on board that they could have taken a long time to get their diagnosis, so 50s, early 60s, but when you sit down with people and listen to their stories, you know, the signs were probably there a lot earlier. So yeah, but most of the people that we are supporting are in their 50s. One gentleman that has just moved into their home last week is in his late 40s.
Okay, so where do you get the referrals?
Look, a lot of them, it's been word of mouth so far. So we've only opened the one home for 5 people. So, you know, we've obviously connected with a lot of the services here in WA. So they were eagerly waiting the opening of the new home. But through there's particular support coordinators here in WA that specialise in supporting people with younger onset dementia. We have the neurosciences unit, which I think is a bit like your younger onset dementia unit at Royal Melbourne Hospital. Just different clinicians working in the area. Perth's not that big, like, you know, the network's quite close now. So yeah, it's been a lot of word of mouth.
Thank you.
Yeah. And Leanne?
Hi, Naomi. Thank you for your presentation. I guess my question was around what challenges have you faced and how have you overcome that in terms of dealing with the younger demographic? Because I guess they're younger, fitter, faster, stronger, which I guess brings its own challenges. So have you had any challenges in response to that?
One challenge that I meant to mention, and I was talking to Sarah about it earlier, I'll come to your question in a minute, but one challenge we're finding, like, you know, it's great. We've offered our clinicians all this amazing training to do these extra programs, but people's plans don't have the hours to, you know, be able to provide those programs. So that has been a challenge. And I mean, the advocacy work we're doing through the Joint Solutions Project, and we, you know, remain positive that people will get better, you know, plans in the future. But at the moment, we're looking at developing like a communication group. So like a short 4-week group where, you know, if people don't have much funding in their plan, that they can at least come and access, you know, that small group, you know, maybe 4 or 5 people in a communication group, so they can still get some some help and assistance, and also the benefits of being in a group and being social. So yeah, that is one challenge that we're finding, that, you know, yay, we're offering these great programs, but people don't have the funding. In terms of younger onset dementia and yeah, being fitter, and look, the people that have moved into the home so far, it's, you know, we haven't had any challenges, but we don't actually have anyone with frontotemporal dementia living in that home as yet. So we will open the second house sort of in July this year. So yeah, I think we learn as we go. We really try, something we've been trying to learn from other providers around Australia is how we match the people in the home. So I think that is a consideration as well. But yeah, I don't have a magic answer for that one, and I'm sure it's a learn as we go. Just as an aside, and nothing really that has informed the project, but last week I attended the Dementia Beyond Disease Symposium in Canberra, and you know, I think a lot of the Eden principles have informed our model of care, and I think, you know, thinking who is the person, what are their, you know, needs in terms of their autonomy, their meaning, their purpose, their security, and really focusing on that as opposed to a behaviour, I think is an approach that we are trying to take as well.
Thank you.
Rebecca.
Hello, I just wanted to state how exciting it is to hear of someone or an organisation who has an idea, who creates the opportunity, follows it up, implements it, and with all in an amazing time frame as well. So well done. I'm really impressed. It's amazing.
Thank you.
And I guess coming from the other side of Australia, I find that it's difficult to try and implement things in a timely manner and know who you're working with as well. So well done. That's awesome. Can I ask then, can you state what were your enablers to be able to do all of this from the beginning throughout? Was there anything or anyone or any group that you found enabled this to occur?
I think the organisation and the management here that had the vision to start with and saw the need, and they have, like I mentioned, developed some very innovative. They've just opened up a big new Huntington's community for people living with Huntington's, and like I said, so Janet Wagland is my manager, and that was her vision. I think Sarah's met Janet. So yes, so people with vision and drive to do that, and an organisation that backs it with the funding. We also worked very collaboratively, and we have some great people. I'm not sure if you've come across like Vicky Barry. She's a dementia advocate. Her husband lives with younger onset dementia here in WA, and we work very closely with that community and in our consultation. But really, as soon as I talked to anyone about this project, everyone was just so collaborative. So I just think that, you know, the hearts and minds of people who really want to see better outcomes has really, you know, we've learned a lot, and people have always been willing to share. There hasn't been silos. So yeah, a range of factors.
Awesome. Well done.
Yeah.
And just before Amy, Julie, did you have a question?
I do. I'm my husband's full-time carer. He was diagnosed at age 58. Although, as you mentioned, it's you know, there were signs for quite a while before that. But my question to you, the home that you provided, I think, is incredible. But do you have any plans to open up a respite home for people with younger onset dementia? Because that's been almost impossible. I've had to rely on family, and when things have gone really skew-if and we desperately needed some respite, we had to really call on everyone to help. So are you planning to do that, or can you see a model that?
Yeah, thanks, Julie. I really acknowledge everything that you're saying, and absolutely, we understand that there is a huge need. We're just working on a survey to send out to the younger onset dementia community here in Perth. Like, obviously, we understand there is a need, but just to try and get a bit more data on what's important to people about respite, like obviously they need it, but where is it, you know, what they're wanting to get out of it. It's not like it's something that we're doing next week or in the next 6 months, but that's our first step. So following on from this project, yeah, that is our one of the next things that we are looking at.
My husband, fortunately, we found Caledenia that
Yeah.
we go of, and my husband attends there, and that's been life-changing for both of us, for him and for me.
Yeah.
But and I know Sarah's right up with the acknowledging the need for different things for our loved ones with young onset dementia. But I just thank you for allowing me to be part of this discussion and to listen to all the wonderful things you're saying. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amy.
I have another question. I'm interested to know more about alcoholic dementia. This is my first time, to hear about this terminology. Is it related to the substance abuse, that may cause, young onset dementia?
So, in terms of Korsakoff's dementia, I mean, that's just taken from the research that we got that information about the numbers being higher in people under 65. So we haven't actually done any of that research or collected that data ourselves. Yeah, so I will highlight that we do have in the current, so Brightwater have a number of SIL homes, and they do have people living with Korsakoff's in those homes, and people, I mean, every person is different, an individual, no matter who we are or what our diagnosis is. We are finding that the people living with Korsakoff's do seem to thrive or live well in the current homes that we've got, and that wasn't as a greater need for that specific home to be tailored for them. I'm not saying that they're excluded from the home, but we just saw that their need was being, or for the individuals that we are supporting in those homes, that they are living there and living good lives there. So it was more people maybe with other forms of dementia that their needs weren't being met as well in those homes. So hence this home that we've developed.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Any other questions? No. Thank you so much, Naomi. That was not only really informative, but actually really inspiring as well. Certainly makes me want to. Well, I said to Naomi before we got on the group call that I'm coming over there. I want to go and learn everything I can from your service. So
yeah. And if anyone is coming to Perth or wants to get in touch, please do, and we would warmly welcome you over here. We've been so warmly welcomed in different places around Australia to learn, so we would love to be able to do that in return.
Thank you. Oh, Rebecca, did you have your hand up again? And Rachel too.
If it's
That's
not
okay.
too late, sorry, if it's not too late, then I guess, Naomi, not saying that I'm booking a flight now, but in saying that, you sound like you're quite open to sharing what you've discovered and whatnot. I guess I get the impression that WA does dementia pretty well, and that I can only speak to Victoria. Victoria is trying hard. Do you feel that Brightwater has any sway in the overall taking up of pathways or developing ideas for a sort of an Australia-based approach?
That's a good question. I think I will just highlight that, we are only working in the metropolitan area at the moment, and we are part of a big state. So I acknowledge that there is a lot of, WA that we're not covering. But within the Perth metropolitan area, I think it's easier because it is a smaller network, and, you've got a bigger population in Melbourne. So I think there's those factors that make it easier for us. in terms of that pathway that we're developing for, or is being developed for younger onset dementia, yes, so that is being funded through the Joint Solutions Project, and my understanding is that it is to sort of maybe be a pilot to translate across Australia. Like, we're looking at the Young Dementia Network in the UK and the things that they're doing, and how this network and pathway might be able to sort of mirror some of that, but be adapted to Australia and rolled out across the rest of Australia. So we're lucky that we can do that here, and we've got some great people working on that here in WA. We are also going to be doing some research on our model of care, so hopefully we can add in a evidence-based space, and it probably will mean that we make changes to our model of care and try and improve it as we go along. But hopefully, having that evidence to, then inform policy and things like that. So we're working really hard to be involved in those sort of joint solutions projects and younger onset dementia special interest group and things like that to advocate. So yeah, we're lucky we've had those opportunities.
Great.
Rachel.
Yeah, hi. I just wanted to highlight that Dementia Australia is starting a online YOD carer support group as well. So we're starting that within the next, hopefully by the end of this month. So if anyone's interested, you can call our helpline on 1800 100 500 and ask about the YOD carer support group that will be online commencing soon. So.
That's great.
Thank you.
And also there's you've got the FTD carer support group, and Dementia Services Australia have one as well. So that's often people with younger onset dementia. So they're great resources too.
Yeah. This is our first YOD specific one for so just getting it off the ground. So yeah.
Awesome. I can't see any more hands. I missed those last couple. Thank you very much, everybody, and thank you, Naomi. That was, like I said, an amazingly enthusiastic and so much information. We can only hope that some organisation in Victoria takes the lead and pulls it all together here as well. So thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming along. As always, this video will be available at some stage on YouTube, and I will let everybody know the link. Thank you for your attendance.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.